So for Holy Week, I wanted to do a painting. So I chose a painting to copy from a series of paintings done by James Tissot. James Tissot was a French painter who painted at the time of the Impressionists. He hung around with a lot of the Impressionists, but I think he'd be considered an Impressionist, but he also kind of kept a lot of the traditional um, painting techniques that were kind of rejected at the time of the Impressionists too. So he kind of floated in between. There was a group of painters called the Pre-Raphaelites who kind of totally rejected all the new Impressionist stuff and painted very similar to the masters. I know some of his later works kind of fit into that same style. So I think he kind of bounced around a bit as far as with his who he hung out with and and kind of where he fits in the time as far as style and that. He was a very successful painter um, at his in his time, and towards the end of his life, he decided to devote all of his time to painting religious paintings. And this painting that I'm copying of his is from a series he did called The Life of Christ. He spent about 10 years painting about 350 paintings about the life of Christ, and he actually spent a lot of time going to the Holy Land and doing studies in the Holy Land to get it as accurate as he could. It was one of the final, I think, probably one of the final series he did. I know after this, I have read that he had started doing a more New Testament version, a series of more New Testament paintings, but this and that were kind of the last things he did before he died. These paintings that he did were smaller paintings. His career, he painted larger oil paintings. These paintings were smaller, watercolor with gouache. Gouache is an opaque version of watercolor. Um, um, and some of them he did do larger versions of, but not very many. We're fortunate here in Minneapolis to have one of the larger paintings that he did, called the Journey of the Magi, here in the Institute. It's a very beautiful painting, and it's a large version. So he has a smaller one done in the watercolor for this series, but then he made a larger version of it. So if you're ever at the Institute, look for that. Um, so this is me copying it, and many times artists copy masters, because it's very good to kind of see how a master would paint a painting. And it also, for me, as I'm painting this, I'm seeing, when I paint a painting, I make decisions as to how I'm going to handle the colors and the values, and how to get certain things to come forward and go backwards, and that's all based on how you place objects, but also how you paint them, and the values, how dark and light they are. So as I'm painting this, I'm seeing and kind of feeling some of the decisions that Tissot made as he was originally painting it to get some of the figures to feel right, and to get the emphasis right um, on where he wanted in the painting. I did the painting I'm doing is a detail from his painting, which was more horizontal. I chose just to paint a portion of it, just for time's sake. I also eliminated some of the figures in the foreground, again, just for time's sake. I'm painting this, so as I said, Tissot had painted it in watercolor with some opaque gouache. I'm painting this in casein, which is very similar to gouache, where it's a very opaque and matte kind of paint. So it doesn't have the shine or the transparency of oil or that. It has a real opaque kind of look when it's done painted, and I kind of like that. I chose to use the casein instead of gouache, because casein has a similar property, so I thought it would look similar to Tissot's painting, but casein will dry permanent ultimately. So after about a month, I'll be able to take this painting and frame it if I wish, without glass. and it should hold up real well. So the original painting took me about 3 hours, maybe a little bit more. This has been sped up and should go a little quicker than that, so I hope you enjoy. Thanks.